Hi everybody, Ross Toys. I'm back here for another zombie theory video. We are back at it thanks to COD Zombie HQ's video that talks about another interpretation to the Revelations ending. I wanted to expand on his idea further to continue a bigger discussion that will help us understand the zombie story so much more. Please check out his video, link in the description below if you want to hear the original idea. But to summarize his video, Revelations didn't end the way we thought it did, just like Origins surprised us in the past. COD Zombie HQ suggested that there are two alternatives to the ending. The first being when we end the game, we are seeing the start of Primus's adventures that are not detailed by the Chronorium or hinted at by the comics. The second being the cycle is broken. Now you may ask, what is the cycle? It's been a while, Rad. COD Zombies HQ cites it as our quest in Black Ops 3, but I don't think that's quite right. Black Ops 3 represents our fractures on the timeline. The cycle is larger, encompassing at the very least the beginning dimension and dimension 63 we see on the timeline. The reason this is true is our timeline shows us this in the geography of the arrows after the Revelations ending. I would like to note that the Chronorium is lacking in so much information now that we have had time to really digest it all. We know that the Chronorium only shows information that the reader is looking for. It serves as a bit of a bias, like when people normally search for information to support their own opinions. We know Dr. Edward Richtofen, the Primus version, reads this page of the Chronorium because he signs and dates the bottom of the pages. Basically, if Dempsey looked at the book, it might be slightly or completely different. This means Treyarch has done what they did before and allowed themselves to go anywhere with the story in the next game, which is good news. That means they didn't write themselves into a corner. Yet. Back to the cycle. It is an endless loop that causes our characters to relive the same events hundreds, if not thousands of times. In Zombie Chronicles, Dr. Monty even explains this to our characters. We have been through these maps so many times because we have gone through the cycle, but he adds that we visit some places we never were. This means places like Nocturne Toten, Verrucht, where the nameless Marines first fought, did happen, but now, in fractured dimensions or other universes, we play as the Ultimus crew because space and time is messed up. I must note that the timeline isn't linear. What we experience isn't necessarily the order it occurred. Mob of the Dead is the perfect micro-scaled case that we can apply to the larger picture of zombies. Inside Mob of the Dead, our four mobsters are stuck endlessly killing Al Arlington on the bridge in Alcatraz until Al defeats them during one of the Easter eggs. Al can vaguely remember Mob of the Dead and all the hundreds of times they failed for reasons unexplained. Why he remembers isn't important to the story for now. What is important is our characters are stuck fighting zombies and dying forever in an endless loop. It is broken when Al kills the three other mobsters. What is important is the cycle is broken, and yet it is nowhere to be found on the Chronorium, just like Richtofen's buried endgame we experienced in Black Ops 2. We do not get to know what breaking the cycle means on Mob of the Dead because that will reveal what is going on at the end of Revelations. Now that I explained the foundation, we can make the next jump that COD Zombies HQ did in his second idea. The ending of Revelations breaks the cycle. Okay. I made numerous videos talking about breaking the cycle or resolving the paradox, but I never looked at the geography of the timeline from the perspective of Revelations breaking the cycle. There are three arrows touching the Revelations ending. One points toward it, telling us how we got there, what we experienced in Black Ops 3 season. The second is a representation of the paradox. The other two arrows jump back to the beginning of two different dimensions. The beginning dimension and dimension 63, and start exactly the same up until the end of the Apothicon War. The first difference comes in when the Wolf King orders his servant to scatter his bones, while in Dimension 63 we have Pablo Marinus recording all the information of the war that will later cause the beginning universe to speed up into Origins. This should be sending red flags like crazy to you right now. Why are these two universes exactly the same and then splintering after the ending of Revelations? One of the hardest concepts to grapple with in zombie storylines is the fact that it doesn't occur in a linear fashion. We have time fractions that cause things to occur out of time order, but the events occur linearly. This is what creates paradoxes in zombies. Primus must go back in time to set things in motion, but they don't do that until the ending of Revelations. But Revelations comes after they go back in time. That is part of the paradox of our story. Now that we look at the Revelations ending with different glasses, we can notice things are different. Originally, I dismissed these differences as negligible, poor writing, bitter to the ending of the game. But now we can see the Origins mound in the background and all the knights looking up to them in the CGI cutscene. While the scrap of paper it cuts to shows different people in geography, they don't match. These two different locations match up perfectly with our Chronorium map. What we can't read is the difference in locations. The Great War happens at Origins in Dimension 63, while the Great War happens somewhere else while in the beginning dimension. The two endings don't match up for a reason. This feeds into two possible ideas. The first being the cycle is in fact not broken. We prove that the endings feed into the ongoing paradoxes that are shown by the Chronorium at the end of Revelations. You have one ending representing the Dimension 63 universe and one ending representing the beginning universe, feeding into the continuous cycle. The second idea being that Dimension 63 is clearly destroyed by the Apothicons at the end of the cycle. How does it come back into existence? Does the time travel actually work if the dimension no longer exists in the future? It is quite possible that this is a different universe compared to Dimension 63 that we see in the CGI cutscene. This would break the cycle, causing a new path for our characters to fight in Black Ops 4 Zombies. But I don't think that's as likely as the next idea. Let's keep going with these ideas because it's so refreshing to talk about Treyarch's zombie story again. If the characters at the end of Revelations aren't Primus or even the same characters at the end of the Revelations Easter egg with Monty, we have another reason the cycle could be broken. The transition of Dr. Monty sending our characters away can be completely disconnected with the next scene. Our crew at the end of Revelations could be sent to the start of the next map in Treyarch Zombies, while the ending of Revelations shows us the two endings continuing the cycle. Primus went to a different universe than what is shown in order to continue our adventure outside of the cycle or paradox. We get our brackets because the ending perfectly explains what is going on through all the previous zombie maps and allows our Primus crew to start the next step of our story outside the endlessly repeating universe. I want to be so bold to suggest that Primus is not a singular crew. Diving deeper into all of these storyline ideas, it seems to me that Primus represents specific versions of our characters in these different universes. The giant radios spell out to us that there are tons of our crews running around the multiverse trying to solve things. The actions by those crews that think and act like Primus are responsible for continuing the cycle. Just like in Zombie Chronicles, we play as Ultimus despite it being different from the original Ultimus story in characters. This explanation could help so many plot holes and variations of characters because it explains all the fractures and different versions of our characters. Primus is no longer just 4 people that we travel map to map with. It's every version of our characters that think and act almost the same with slight variations that cause the cycle to continue. Just like Ultimus, just like Victus. There could be a million different versions of Primus. All in all, that is the exciting conclusion that COD Zombie HQ inspired me to come to. Now, I am certain there must be flaws in my conclusion, and I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. What do you think of all this, and can you help me find more proof in the timeline or game that supports my conclusions or other conclusions? I want to know and have that discussion with you guys in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please subscribe and leave a like for more zombies and gaming videos. I'm RadAustin27. I hope you've enjoyed. Have a absolutely wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.